Rob. He's the strategic alliance manager over at Avalara, actually one of our partners that we recommend our merchants over to when it comes to tax compliance. Rob, where are you calling in from tonight?
I'm calling from Greenville, South Carolina.
Okay, so it is late. I can see out your window that it's pretty dark there, and it's dark over here. This is fake light for me.
Yeah, I definitely got the lights on in the house now.
Well, thanks for joining us. I'm excited for you to go over the landed prices right, just because tax compliance is one aspect to e-commerce that merchants have to think about, whether they're selling in the US or in our international facilities. So I'll let you take it from here.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Let me see if we get this presented here. All right, everybody. So yeah, I'm Rob Hebrank. I'm the strategic partner manager with ShipBob, and my background is in logistics, 10 years in the shipping business that recently made the jump over to the tech side of things. So here's the agenda, just introductions, kind of already did that. Who is Avalara? Why tax compliance matters? Avalara solutions, including AvaTax domestically and our cross-border. Avalara partners and integrations, some more overseas VAT filings, and then at the very end, if you have any questions, we'll go over those. So a little bit, who's Avalara? So we have over 30,000 customers. We're in over 79 countries. We've processed over 2 million tax returns annually, and we have over 700 partner integrations. So that's key to our strategy, is making us easy, plug and play. And I'll dive more into that later. Here's what we call the NASCAR slide. But it's important because we have it listed in 6 areas here. So retail, e-commerce, bread and butter, why we're here. But we also cover items like software. So governments are taxing digital services now. Lodging, so think of the rise of VRBO and rentals. Communications, so even the technology we communicate through. Bev alcohol, and something down here that's a little interesting is manufacturing. So a lot of people are like, well, I B2B, so I don't really get taxed, but we'll talk a little bit more about why we can help in that area. So why tax compliance matters. It's universal, it's intensifying. It affects every person, every business, every day. With the rise of e-commerce, globalization, mobile transactions, and platforms going digital for tax collection, it's just an ever expanding nightmare. But let's start a little bit about it. So in America, what's Nexus? And Nexus is the estate's ability to decide when you have to remit and collect sales tax. So back in 2018, the Supreme Court ruled against Wayfair, the furniture company, that, hey, you have to pay us your taxes when you sell to our customers in the state. And they said, well, we don't, because we don't have a brick and mortar in your state. And so in a 5-4 ruling, that changed the landscape overnight. And states now have the ability to decide. It could be anything from drop shipping your goods in a different state to a certain amount of transactions, like Colorado, for example, 200 sales or over $100,000 in business, you have to collect. And so I like to say 50 states, 50 different headaches. And so some of the complexities in dealing with these 50 different states is paper versus online remittance, varying due dates, prepayment. So depending how much business you do, you have to prepay your amount, like what you're projecting. And then handling of tax notices, filing in local jurisdictions, city, state, county, late payment fees, and then multiple payment methods. So here's where we help. Here's where the governments come in. So the governments come here with new regulations, and so we can help our customers. And that's managing growth, changing regulations. We help you with reporting and returns back to the government, city, state, county, local, national. We help remit the payments. They send over any tax notices, any change of regulations. And then we also have the ability to manage those notices. If you ever get audited, when you have a good tax solution in place, we can close audits out quickly and save you a lot of money because you will have all the information you need to resolve it. And so that's where our audit response comes in. So doing this all manually just isn't sustainable anymore. But most of my sales are tax exempt customers. So this is that B2B model for distributors and manufacturers. Poor process for managing exemption certificates creates a negative customer experience. So a lot of companies are now selling B2B online. And there's a ways where it's really not about collecting the tax, but proving why you did it. So B2B businesses can get audited and they're now on the hook for all the tax money for all their sales until they present these tax exempt certificates. They have to be updated yearly and tracked. So a lot of times people don't have them. If you ever get audited, you have to go fish out every one until you can prove that you don't have to pay those taxes. But here's some of the complexities on that state and city level that I was talking about. Jumping back to Commerce City, Colorado, here you can see in a geofence, we know cities annex it different ways. It's not by the street, it's not by the zip code. And so these are two neighbors right here, and one person is paying $100 versus the other paying $221. So this guy's only paying the state sales tax, while the other person is paying for the city and state. There's a $100 difference there. We can obviously detect that, and it's important to get it right because you don't want to undercharge someone and you have to pay for it to the state, or you don't want to overcharge someone and lose a sale. And you can see there's over 12,000 overlapping tax jurisdictions. So just looking by zip code isn't really going to work. Here's just an internal look at the AvaTax program just to show you some of the different state tax levels. North Carolina, that's your state tax. Then they tax on the county level, so here. And then you could see there's like a special tax assessment. So sometimes local areas might run a special tax to pay for a bridge, a park, and it might run for a certain amount of time. We're able to detect that. And that's not something you can really keep up on your own. Here's some of the funny taxability challenges, some of the interesting things that get taxed versus not taxed. If you get tree trimming in California, as long as they're not using lights, so cutting at night, cutting with lights, it's not taxable. It's just considered labor. But if you use lights, they're going to tax it. Snow removal in the Midwest, so in Ohio, they're going to tax you. It's exempt in Illinois. This is a fun one. Bagels in New York. If you slice them, they're taxable. If you sell them uncut, they're tax exempt as food. And then a fun one down in Texas. If you buy less than 6 donuts, they're not going to tax you. But once you go over 6, they're going to tax you. There's over 1,800 different rules. So again, it's incredibly complex across the country. So how we can help is we can do the tax calculations, we can manage your tax returns, and we can handle your business tax exempt certificates. We made it our goal to plug in everywhere. So we plug into all the major ERP systems, we plug into point of sale systems, CRMs, and then this one here on the e-commerce side, we'll jump into this, but this is more specific to adding cross-border for foreign purchases. So automating tax compliance. What does this look like? This is cert capture. So if you are doing a mix of B2B and B2C, you can store those certificates. Customer comes on, wants to make a transaction. It's going to check cert capture to see if there's a tax exempt file and it will automatically prevent the customer from being charged because it'll know it's a B2B. If not, it'll charge tax, and then we will remit it and return it to the government. So we'll remit it and file it and pay it for you. So automating tax compliance globally, and that's where we're headed. So here's some of the challenges when expanding cross-border: roadblocks, held packages, incorrect tariff codes, product databases too large, landed cost discrepancies, and changing regulatory environments overseas. And here's where we can help. So we can help with some of the major pain points: shipments delayed in customs, added supply chain costs, accurately calculating international duties and taxes, poor user experience for cross-border purchases, and customers rejecting shipments because they don't know what the fees are. Here's some questions to ask. How have customs holds in the past affected your day-to-day operations to resolve? Have you or your customers ever had bad experience because of surprise costs? Have you ever run into a return because of regulations? And have you quit selling to certain countries due to the ever-changing laws like IOS and the Brexit? Going back to, we can handle the tariff codes. So think of, if you're already familiar with sales and use tax domestically, tariff codes are your tax codes internationally. We can help with those. May help calculate duties, but we can also calculate VAT and GST charges, so foreign taxes. And we already can do sales and use tax domestically. So we're the first to provide all under one umbrella. And so why our harmonized tariff codes are so good is that we use machine learning. So over 3 billion bits of information. But what's special about our process is we actually have humans review it. So it's not just relying on an automation tool. We have someone sign off on it. And that gives us proven real-world accuracy, speed and scale, less upfront data prep, and efficiency. So instead of paying someone by the hour where the project balloons, the cost per transaction goes down the more you get. So think of economies of scale. Just a quick visualization of what that would look like. Manage tariff codes. We would plug those into the cross-border calculator so a customer could see a purchase and it would calculate any tariffs or GST or VAT. But we can also look through trade restrictions management. So we can help see if your goods are going to be regulated before you expand into a new market. And so here is a GIF of a purchase of one of our customers. And what you're going to see, if you look at the bottom here, they're putting some expensive dresses in the cart, but you're going to see the tax calculation. And so it's already down there. And so what happens is it calculates taxes. When we switch it to an international address, this is what it'll look like. So it's going to say your shipping total, subtotal, duties, and taxes for an all-in landed cost. Now we can do it where we can explain what you'll pay the courier on delivery, so DDU. But we also do, this is the DDP model, so delivery duties paid versus delivery duties unpaid. And then I talked about setting up cross-border, making it easy. So we have connectors that are plug and play with Magento 1 and 2, Salesforce, Oracle NetSuite, WooCommerce, BigCommerce, QuickBooks, and then an API. Now, the reason I don't have Shopify on here is because they're white labeling our tariff code or our landed cost. So right now, advanced and Shopify Plus users can request it from their Shopify managers, and they can get landed cost ability put onto their website. And it's very easy to set up because they're offering it. So just to recap how we're different: complete solution, domestic sales tax and international. We have best of the box, harmonized tariff codes. Over 280 people in global content research, and we're not sourcing it on third parties. It's all first party content so that we're the best at it. Ever growing ecosystem of connectors, making it easy, but also we have an API that's really good as well. Open and modular, which means you can pick and choose. So maybe you only need tariff codes because you're a B2B business. Maybe you want to keep your payment processor. We're not going to force you to take anybody else. And that sort of ties in here to freedom to choose your best in class partners. And then what I have left here is just sort of a recap of how we can help globally with some other tax compliance needs. So we've covered, we can help with trade restrictions, we can help with tariff codes, we can help provide a landed cost and a platform to look for free trade agreements and get better pricing. And if you're, if we have the right free trade agreements, but areas where we can help here, where I see shipping is tax compliance is coming to cross-border. And so logistics providers will need support with this because it's a tax compliance issue. Things I want to point out is VAT registrations in other countries, importer one-stop shop, UK VAT registrations, you name it. If you need a VAT registration, we're in over 80 countries, and that's just going to continue to expand. The future, it's not quite here yet, but in some major countries, Brazil, India, Italy, e-invoicing. So that's where every transaction is actually pinged the government, and we can help file and remit those while supporting them as a fiscal representative. And so I would like to open it up. If there's any questions, I can go for there, or otherwise we can wrap it up.
Thanks, Rob. I'm not sure. I'm looking if there's any questions. If anyone has any specific questions, pop those in now. I think the biggest question or thing that comes up a lot, especially if they're a US business looking to expand globally, or maybe they're a global business looking to expand to the US, what's the process and how long does it take to get all this set up with tax compliance? I know the US is a little bit different than when you're going into the EU or UK, but how much time should they give themselves to get set up so they can legally be compliant to start shipping?
Yeah, so some countries, like let's say if you're US exporting into the EU, right now items under 150 euros, it's actually not mandatory. You can still sort of get it in. Sometimes the couriers are going to charge you a little bit for it. EU, we can set it up pretty quickly because the EU government's quick to turn around. So within a week or two, places like if the UK, where they have 135 British pounds, if you're below that, they won't let your low value goods in. That's going to take a month or two. And it's because we're waiting on the UK government to get back to us. So sometimes we're fast, sometimes we're slow. It really depends on that country and how fast they can be. So it's always best to just plan it ahead, give yourself a month or two, and we can walk through it.
Awesome. Thank you. I think another question that comes up is, is a merchant that's just starting up a startup, are they big enough for Avalara? Do they need to start off with Avalara? Obviously with tax implications, they need to figure something out, but is everyone good for your, depending on what size they are, because ShipBob works with SMBs and mid-market, but mostly the SMBs are the ones that need the most help because they can't usually afford to have someone on the payroll doing this 24/7 or afford to do it themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So good call out. And actually, ShipBob's been great. They've actually referred me a few small businesses. And so I think a lot of the users are on Shopify, and we have an extractor there. So even for just your domestic sales, we can help you with that with a very low cost solution where we'll actually pull the sales out and we'll help with the filing on that. And it's a very affordable solution. We do it a lot. For the cross-border piece, in time, they're going to roll that out to everybody, but they're taking their time. So if you're an advanced user or like I said, a plus member, that's pretty easy to do. The technology it's catching up, it's going to be easier, but definitely on the domestic piece right now, if you're a real small business. And then, I would never say never. We can always just look at it, see what kind of international traffic you're getting, and see how we can, if it's worth the return on investment.
Awesome. Thanks, Rob. I'm not sure if we have any other questions. If you have any specific questions for your business, pop into the link I just put in, which is the booth. Rob will be in there as well as his team to answer any questions. Yeah, so thank you so much, Rob.